recording is prepared. We are online, and I guess we may start. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I'm thrilled and honored to welcome all of the audience on the joint event of think tank ADASTRA, Ukrainian think tank, and Gulf Research Center, think tank from Saudi Arabia with its offices in Jeddah and Geneva, at a joint conference devoted to Ukrainian-Saudi relations. We are going to discuss much of the issues, political and economic one today, and I am going to present myself and present our highly esteemed speakers. My name is Viktor Kravatsky. I'm CEO, Chief Executive Officer of Ukrainian think tank ADASTRA. With us also is here Honorary Ambassador, His Excellence Ambassador Extraordinary Plenipotentiary of Ukraine to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Mr. Vakhushev Vadim. We will be waiting for his Saudi counterpart to join us at any minute, His Excellence Mohammed bin Salman Mohammed Al Mamashar, Ambassador Extraordinary of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to Ukraine. We also featured in Dr. Abdulaziz Zaghe, Chairman of the Gulf Research Center, Dr. John Sfakiakis, Program Director and Economic Research Chief Economist, Dr. Christian Koch, Director of Research and Gulf Research Center, and Irina Zaporiska, Senior Fellow of ADASTRA. I'm thrilled to welcome all of you, and I will pass the floor to give the keynote speech to Mr. Vadim. Mr. Vadim, please, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. As you know, Ukraine considers Saudi Arabia as one of the leaders of the Muslim world, with a significant influence on a lot of global processes. It's our important and promising partner in various areas of bilateral relations. Saudi Arabia, one of our major partners for trade and economy in the Middle East and the Gulf. In 2020, trade exchange between Ukraine and Saudi Arabia amounted more than $820 million. As Ukrainian export achieved approximately $719 million, and Saudi imports $102 million. This is not figures. We are not satisfied with this level of trade and economic relations, because we see many perspectives for further expansion and diversification of our trade ties, because our two countries don't have any political problems in our relations, first of all. Secondly, Saudi Arabia and Ukraine are witnessing the period of transformation, very huge, big transformation. In Saudi Arabia, as you know, this is Saudi Vision 2030 transformation plan of the kingdom, which must exchange Saudi Arabia from oil country to huge economy grounded on non-oil production. During next 10 years, Saudi Arabia will be in the top of world economies. In Ukraine as well, you see many changes dedicated to business activity, to investment activity, and as you know, from 2019, we provided new legislation for protection of investment, new legislation land market, new legislation of concession, which simplify the business activity for our foreign partners. And as a result, since 2019, Ukraine has moved up on 7th position in the World Bank Doing Business Report, 2020 report, ranking 64. It's approximately the same place which occupies Saudi Arabia. And with many proposals for investments in Ukraine, with Ukraine launching the program of large-scale privatization, everything is creating wonderful possibilities for Saudi business to come to our market. We offer to Saudi side an opportunity for investment in such sectors as agri-food, energy, oil and gas, and renewable energy, aircraft, shipbuilding, tourism, innovation technologies, IT, of course, infrastructure. This is, I mean, seaports, airports, and roads, and industrialization. And the acquisition of Ukrainian agricultural holding company MRIA by the Saudi Agricultural and Livestock Investment Company, SALIC, in 2018, not only resulted into a significant widening of Ukraine's participation in ensuring food security of Saudi Arabia, but proved growing confidence of foreign, in particular Saudi, reputable investors in its economy and investment climate. Ukraine declared not once that it's ready to enhance its role as a guarantor of food security of Saudi Arabia. And joint production of multi-purpose transport aircraft and AN-132D in 2016-2017 visually demonstrated in the eyes of the whole world our state's ability to create high-tech products corresponding to the highest international standards. Despite the COVID-19 restrictions, Ukraine and Kingdom of Saudi Arabia have succeeded in bringing their friendly nations closer, because all our countries facilitated visa regime for Saudi Ukrainian nationals in 2019-2020. From, as you know, from August, 1st of August 2020, Saudi citizens can visit Ukraine without visas. From September 2019, Ukrainian nationals can obtain electronic Saudi visas and very simply can visit Saudi Arabia without any restrictions. They can obtain multiple one-year visa to Saudi Arabia, like citizens of other countries like the US, Canada, Switzerland, Britain, the European Union. In this year, exactly from 11th of June 2020, we are launching direct flights between Ukraine and Saudi Arabia, between our capitals. Now it will be 3 times a week by a company Saudi company flying us from Riyadh to Kiev, but we are looking for expansion of our air navigation between our countries. And I think maybe from July it will be once a day. And not only from Riyadh, but also from Jeddah to Ukraine. It brings our people closer to each other. And briefly, I think the expansion of business activity and contacts between our business circle and trade circle will we can achieve very big volume of mutual trade, because this volume that I mentioned it in 2018, about $800 million, it's nothing. I think our volume must be not less than $2 billion, not less, because we have huge potential. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Vadim, for the keynote speech. I will remain to our audience that Mr. Vadim Wachoshev, His Excellency, Honorary Extraordinary Ambassador of Ukraine to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, was making the keynote speech. So before we proceed, before our speeches, I would like to add some words of mine as well. They would concern the general Ukrainian strategy towards the Middle East. For Ukraine, it's now of the utmost importance to diversify its foreign policy on international level, to show the efforts that we are making on the international stage to build the reputation of the credible partner, to develop economic ties with the whole world, with developed countries, with the Middle East as well, and the Asian strategies, or so-called pivot to Asia, the Asian strategies, thing on which Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs is working right now, and one way only may support these efforts as we do. When it comes to the Middle East, Ukraine is, I hope so, it's going like this, and it should to remain like this. Ukraine should promote a diversified multipolar policy in the Middle East. It not should be so limited by alliances as well. And I would also like to transmit this thought to all the spectaculars and viewers from the Saudi Arabia, because Ukraine is trying to build bridges with multiple nations. It's no point in just concluding that Ukraine may be supporting one side or another side. So Ukrainian president has visited Qatar and has visited United Arab Emirates, and I hope that the Ukrainian president will also pay a visit to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as well. So for Ukrainian foreign policy, the key remains in multipolarity and in the ability to form alliances and partnerships with multiple countries of the Middle East, not to stick to one side. And that's where the Saudi Arabia comes in as our partner in the Middle East. And we have a major, as Mr. Ambassador has mentioned, we have immense scope for the further cooperation in various fields, in energy, in air construction sphere, in agriculture, and so on and so on. So the prospects are immense. And from the Ukrainian side and from the Saudi Arabia side, it is a willingness to deepen our relations. And I hope that in the years to come, Ukraine will be able to build a more comprehensive and more stable partnership with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Yeah, so it's what I wanted to add as a moderator. Now we are going to give the floor to our speakers. And I'm going to give the floor to our first speaker. So the chairman of the Gulf Research Center, Dr. Abdulaziz Zarki, please, the floor is yours. Tell us your perspective, your thoughts about political ties, economic ties, about ways how to accelerate relations. So all about the things you may think on. Please, floor is yours.
Good afternoon to everybody. Good afternoon to Your Excellency, and also to you, Victor, if I may say. It's a great pleasure to see such a cooperation between our two institutions from Ukraine and Saudi Arabia to start the first dialogue on the Saudi-Ukrainian relation. Although many think that it's just a new relation in a way, since it's not really as old as some of the old West European country, but still I think it has a great start. And the ambassador have mentioned the size of the trade volume that exists today between both countries. I think I share his optimism to expand that sort of strong economic ties and relation, because both has a potentiality. We're interested a lot in a lot of the agriculture products from Ukraine, and also there are a possible military industry cooperation between both sides on that field. So I think, and tourism definitely, of course, it's of a great interest to both sides. I think having a direct flight that will start soon between Ukraine and Saudi Arabia from Riyadh and Jeddah, this definitely will encourage tourism, will encourage trade, will really bring much more stronger and a better relation. Definitely there are lots of need in Saudi Arabia that Ukraine can participate in the new 2030 vision, whether it is in the different field, industry, tourism, and other, of course, future projects that we are into it. But definitely the more there is a better understanding and a better political and economic relation between both sides, this will help a lot. Sometime a good relation between Saudi Arabia and other countries that have a conflict with the other one, it can help to ease it up and to bring a better understanding, hopefully in the best and the favor of the people, because normally Saudi, being a leader of the Islamic world, they play its role as an honest, mediators to try to bring a better understanding of Islam. We believe in the modernity. We believe in the moderate Islam, non-aggression, one-sided, looking at things. It means it is, fighting Saudi Arabia. They have been fighting terrorism, and they have been fighting a lot the extremism dimension, and that's a very important dimension. And they play a very strong role within the regional organization, whether it's the GCC country amongst the Gulf countries, or within the Arab League or the OIC, and also the United Nations. So having a good relation between Saudi Arabia and Ukraine will help at the international level and also at the regional level. I'm sure the more we develop in the Business Development Council that can be between both sides can bring a lot into the table, focusing in many of the different issues. Of course, different visits have taken place between different officials from both sides, and that's also have increased the potentiality, which is very good. I think this is a good start between both sides, and I think having a joint paper together that both institutions is putting together, that will help and lay down a good start and a good beginning. I'd like to thank you for organizing this, and I would like to thank all my colleagues, Dr. Jonas Fakinakis, the economist, Dr. Christian Koch, the director of research, Dr. Oscar Zimilis, who is the director of our Geneva operation, and also all my other colleagues from Saudi Arabia, Aline and Kinda, Leila, Ghassan. They're all being very keen as a researcher to participate and to contribute to this effort and really push for more understanding. And I'm sure both of us can share with our support and decision maker, to give them some thoughts in terms of the policy matters. What are the areas that we believe, could be more strengthening between both sides? Thank you, and maybe we'll give the floor to Dr. Jonas Fakinakis if he has anything in the economic that he would like to add, and then we move to the others. Thank you.
Yes, thanks a lot, Dr. Abdulaziz, Chairman of Gulf Research Center. So I want to just add one moment. So as you mentioned, Saudi Arabia being the leader of the Islamic world, so there are like vast cooperation possibilities on this track as well. So as you know, Ukraine has a Muslim minority Crimean Tatars, and seizing the opportunity, would also like to thank to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for its position on the non-recognizing the annexation of Crimea. So Crimea is a home to the many of the Crimean Tatars, so the same mazhab, the same religion, and I guess on this way cooperation with the Saudi Arabia as of the holy custodian of two main holy places of Muslim world is also for the utmost importance as for Ukraine as a state, and for Crimean Tatars as well. So then I would like to give the floor to Dr. John Fakinakis. Please, Dr. John, share your vision of the economic thoughts of how to develop the further cooperation. Then we will have Madam Irina, and then we will have Dr. Koch speaking on our panel as well. Please, Dr. John.
Thank you, Victor. One of the difficulties being the third speaker, preceded by two very talented speakers, Dr. Abdulaziz and His Excellency the Ambassador, is that you're left without anything to say because everything has been said before you in so many eloquent ways. Yes, I do believe that there is a lot of potential in the relationship, in the trade and economics relationship. And I think the 800 million can be easily doubled and tripled and can reach, as the ambassador said, 2 billion, if not more. And as we know very well, just to reemphasize, what brings trade ties closer and volumes increasing over the years is visitations, flights, connectivity. That is very important. And the fact that there is now a direct flight and more will follow soon is excellent for the relationship and for commercial ties between the two countries. I think it was very well said. I will reiterate that agriculture is very important to Saudi Arabia's view of the Ukraine-Saudi relationship. The ambassador mentioned very well the investment in 2018 of SALIC. SALIC is at the core of Saudi Arabia's food security policy. They have invested money outside in agricultural land in order to increase food security for the kingdom, Ukraine being a very important strategic country for SALIC. I think that is going to be on the uptrend. You will see an increase in such investments, and I do believe that Ukraine has a lot to offer in agricultural technology, and also particularly barley and other grains. This is at the core of Saudi Arabia's demand dynamics. What was not mentioned, and I'm going through the list of items that I went through to define their relationship, and I think there were many of them were mentioned. One of the things that were not mentioned is the agreement between Saudi Aramco and Ukrainian company, or the Ukrainian company for industry and energy, specializing in the tourism sector and hotels, which is very important. That is at the principle of Saudi Arabia's strategy. And I think this is something that Saudi Arabia will be looking for in that bilateral relationship, the know-how and the talent that was acquired in the tourism sector, but also more so in industry and energy, describing the agreement between Aramco and the Ukrainian company for industry and energy. I think it is very important that Ukraine looks at the factors that Saudi Arabia wants to build over the next 10 to 15 years to realize its vision. And if I may say so, Mr. Ambassador, you need to identify beyond what was said, beyond agriculture, which is an obvious, and what Dr. Abdulaziz said in the military industrial field. That is something that is quite understandable. Saudi Arabia would like to build its domestic military industry. You, Ambassador, mentioned this 2016-2017 agreement to build a vehicle, aircraft manned facility. That is very important. But more so, I would say, beyond these known factors, military, agriculture, and tourism, I would go and urge you to look at beyond these elements and look at what makes the principles of Vision 2030 at the core of Saudi Arabia. And I think what the core is very much in the services sector. It's very much in areas like industry. Ukraine for a long time has built capacity in industry. Now it's trying to look into the micro industries, technology being one of them. Saudi Arabia wants to build its technology capacity, and Ukraine has a lot of human capital, and Saudi Arabia wants to build on that human capital. I think also we need to look at education. We need to look at scientific links. That is quite important. And you do have a lot of experience in the field of nuclear technology. That could potentially be of interest. Again, there are many ways beyond the 2 or 3 that were mentioned and are highlighted that could be looked at. So the 2 billion is attainable in the foreseeable years. I think that if one is to see what Saudi Arabia wants to do, a very ambitious but very reachable strategy, then one could see where Ukraine could come in and help. And it's very much within this leadership role that Saudi Arabia plays, leading the Islamic Muslim world, but not just in the field of culture and religion, but more so as well in the field of innovation, research, and development. This is all I want to say, Victor. Thank you very much for giving me the chance, and I want to thank you and the GRC for organizing this. Thank you.
Yes, thanks a lot, Dr. John. I share your point of view. I share the optimism. I hope that the target of 2 billion is not a total aim, but it's going to be more with the flow of time. So the main goal of us is the research institutions is to give impetus, so to give proof to decision makers that this direction should be prioritized. And to add, what you said, I also support the idea that the cooperation scheme between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Ukraine should not be just boiled down to the traditional industries like petrochemicals and agriculture. We have more, so we have IT specialists, we have Saudi Arabia Vision 2030 is a transformation strategy. For example, as you mentioned, nuclear energy. More than 52% of Ukrainian electricity is generated thanks to our nuclear power plants. And we have lots of experience right there, and also the IT cluster. So, for example, the citizens of Republic of Belarus are now going to Ukraine, so to develop as Ukraine as Eastern European IT hub. So I guess the opportunities are immense, and I will pass the floor to my colleague Irina, who will complement also what has been said today. I will give for Ukrainian vision. How is the relations between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Ukraine should develop, which policies should be adapted, and so on and so on. So, Madam Irina Zapolis, Senior Fellow with Think Tank ADASTRA, please have your floor.
Thank you, Mr. Victor. First of all, thank you for everyone for joining our discussion today. A lot has already been said, and as Mr. Victor said, I will try to give you the Ukrainian vision of the prospects of Ukrainian-Saudi cooperation. First of all, at the beginning, it was already said that Ukraine is currently working on making its own strategy in Asia, but I would say that for Ukraine today, it is necessary not only to make its own strategy in the broader Asian region, but it is necessary to create its own strategy in the Middle East region. And of course, Saudi Arabia should take one of the central places, if not the central place in this Middle East strategy. And of course, we need to look beyond the traditional fields of cooperation. And I would like to note only some of these possible fields. Of course, what has already been said about agriculture and aircraft and technology development and so on and so on. First of all, in my opinion, as a political scientist, I would say that it is necessary for us to bring up the level of our relations to the strategic partnership level, and it should be added to the higher level communications between our authorities. As Mr. Victor probably has already noted today, President Zelensky should make a visit to Saudi Arabia, and I know that already there was an invitation for the King of Saudi Arabia to visit Ukraine in the future, of course, after the pandemic. We understand that today the online communication is a priority, but even if we view it as an online communication, our leaders should try to stay in permanent contact and to develop this higher level dialogue in order to develop further our relations. Also, as you probably know, Ukraine recently created what is called the Crimean platform, and it is of vital importance for Ukraine that Saudi Arabia, as one of the biggest Islamic countries of the world, to join this format of cooperation, and the support of Saudi Arabia is of great importance to Ukraine nowadays because of the situation that our country is in, and the Saudi Arabia support is important for Ukraine because of the relations we have nowadays with the Russian Federation. If we talk about economic relations more specifically, I don't want to repeat the agricultural and aircraft and so on. In my opinion, technical cooperation should be one of our priorities. For example, Ukraine is one of the leaders in space technologies, and I think that Ukraine has a lot to offer in this field for Saudi Arabia as one of the countries which is interested in space research and development in this field, and bilateral cooperation in space exploration can be one of the fields where we can work together in the future. Also, we have already mentioned the military technical cooperation between our countries, and I want to say further that not only the trade in this field is important for Ukraine and for Saudi Arabia as well, but also our countries might think about the joint training and the exchange of experience between our countries. And I know that it is one of the key points in the strategy that our country is trying to build for the Middle East, but it is not yet specified. However, it should be specified in the future, and the contacts between the ministers of defense of the two countries should be established and should be made closer in order for this cooperation to be made possible. And last but not least, it has already been said that our countries should first of all learn more about each other in order to build these bridges between our societies, in order to maybe ruin some negative stereotypes about the societies. And it is also important for Ukraine so that our culture and our country is more well known in the world. And tourism should be one of the key aspects in this field. And we are not only talking about the recreational tourism, which of course is important, but also about the educational tourism, the scientific cooperation, and maybe in the future about the medical tourism as well, as one of the possible fields of establishing relations between our two nations. And to sum up, in my opinion, there are two main points which should be improved in order for our countries to develop our cooperation. First is to establish closer ties on higher level between our authorities. And the second one, in order to facilitate the development of economic cooperation, there should be more agreements in first place about the investments for both Ukrainian and Saudi Arabia side, in order for our countries to be able to cooperate more in the future. Thank you once again. That was all that I wanted to say today.
Thanks a lot, Madam. Yeah.
Can I add something? Because
yeah, sure.
This was my mistake, really, because first of all, I must mention that we have good base for bilateral agreements between Ukraine and Saudi Arabia. What is this agreement? This is good grounds for bilateral cooperation in economy, investment, and other fields. For example, we have basic agreements of agreement between the government of Ukraine and Saudi Arabia on trade, economic, scientific, technical, investment cooperation. It's a basic agreement. In accordance with this agreement, we established a joint governmental committee. We've got 6 sessions of this committee, and I think this year 7th session is to be held in Riyadh in the second half of this year. This committee like a mechanism to determine the ways and tools for economic and trade cooperation. We have also agreement on double taxation. It's important agreement in line of rights of investors. We have a memorandum of investment cooperation in the field of agriculture. It's also important memorandum because it promotes investment activities in this sphere. And in accordance with this memorandum, our sides created a joint working group on the cooperation in agricultural sphere. As well, we have a memorandum of understanding between Ukraine Forum and Saudi Press Agency, memorandum of cooperation between in the field of sport. We have agreement on cooperation in air accidents. We have agreement of cooperation in this field of defense. As well, now we are working on different international documents to be signed soon. I think this is agreement on cooperation in the field of renewable energy, in the field of migration, lifting visa requirements for holders of diplomatic service and special passports, technical program between Saudi Organization for Standards and Ministry of Economy of Ukraine on metrology and standardization, and other documents. I think approximately it will be maybe 10 documents, more documents. We'll be ready to sign very, very soon. This is about our bilateral agreements between Ukraine and Saudi Arabia.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Vadim. Thanks, Madam Irina, for your comment on this. So I hope pretty soon, so in the future, we will make one more panel, hopefully, with regard to a future free trade deal agreement between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Ukraine. One day, I hope that our nations and the trade between our nation will reach such a level. And also to add to what Madam Irina has already mentioned, as for the space cooperation, one need to remind us that Ukraine is home to the many famous Ukrainian scientists, space scientists like Mr. Kovalyov, Sergei Kovalyov, not Kovalyov, Korolev, sorry. So Sergei Korolev, and even the Elon Musk, you know, the CEO of SpaceX, has praised Mr. Korolev on his Twitter. So Mr. Korolev was one of the most famous Ukrainian rocket scientists, rocket engineer in the Soviet time, and he was involved into the launch of the first human being, Mr. Gagarin, into space. So Ukraine has a lot to offer when it comes to also space cooperation, and this track is also may also be further developed. So and ADASTRA will also have space expert, Mr. Borzenko, and I'm sure he would like to join any efforts and cooperation with the space track. Yes, so I will then would like to invite the next speaker. So the Dr. Christian Koch, Director of Research of the Gulf Research Center. So Mr. Koch, please. Floor is yours. Let us know about your thoughts, perspectives, vision about what already have been said, and the whole vision and strategy of relations between Ukraine and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Victor. And it's great to see this cooperation between your institute, ADASTRA, and the Gulf Research Center. I think this is absolutely essential if we're able to provide a more common analysis and bring about a sense of shared analysis. Now, if Dr. John was complaining about being the third speaker and having taken all his ideas away, I'm coming in the fifth position. So I've heard even more better suggestions coming up from both Dr. John and from Irina. But I think overall, it's also definitely important to look at the many changes that are occurring on the international scene, both in the political strategic sense and then of course on the economic side. I'm coming from the background of international relations. I think that what we're seeing also are significant shifts in the international system and the whole Black Sea region, of course, which is of primary importance also, of course, for the Ukraine, is one area that we're going to be focused on a lot more in the near future. Because I see here competition in the Black Sea also intensifying, given its absolutely central location as a corridor for trade, for energy routes, even for geopolitical ambitions. And this, of course, ties together both the adjoining countries to the Black Seas, but also to the wider neighborhood. And it's an integral part of if you're looking at China and the Belt and Road Initiative, it's important to countries like Turkey, as it also tries to get a little sense of energy independence. So I think to have, you know, a little bit more of an exchange, even at the think tank level, on many of these strategic issues, and to better understand what these shifts actually mean for the overall geopolitical scene, I think is an important element. The GRC has been part of a larger study group that was put together by the Bertelsmann Foundation in Germany, looking at the implications in the EU's neighborhood of policies being pursued by countries like Russia, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Iran as being considered four very important countries outside of the direct EU neighborhood. And we just, last year, we actually just published a larger study on the geopolitical ambitions in the Black Sea and Caspian regions, looking at all the various dimensions and then looking specifically at the role that countries like Russia, Turkey, Iran, and Saudi Arabia play, and what impact that has on the EU neighborhood strategy. And I'm happy, I'll post the link in a minute in the chat so everybody can have an access to this study. But definitely, it clearly lays out many of the changes occurring, and also possibilities of where one can increase better policy prescriptions. There's a whole section on also how to increase Ukraine's resilience. And here, when we're talking about relations between Saudi Arabia and Ukraine, two major aspects are simply, and they've already been mentioned in a way, is of course, port infrastructure is absolutely essential to have. Because we need to have the capabilities in place in order to move goods across. So this is certainly one way also in which we can have a link up actually between Saudi Arabia, Europe, and Ukraine. You know, the Ukraine is a part of the EU's eastern neighborhood. At the same time, Saudi Arabia has great relations to Europe in line of the EU-GCC cooperation agreement, and as well as bilateral Saudi-Europe relations. So here, I think there can be a lot of emphasis can be given to probably also joint projects, because I think Europe, of course, has, just as Saudi Arabia, have an intense interest also in the security of this region, as well as in the territorial integrity of Ukraine. Another area is also is simply the waterway infrastructure inside the Ukraine of the Dnieper River going down to the Black Sea, because this would facilitate trade access and trade routes. So those are two things that I think are absolutely essential to look at. I mean, overall, again, it's a sense of having specialist exchanges to that we can provide specific ideas on projects. I can only underscore John's emphasis on we shouldn't just limit ourselves to thinking of, you know, traditional areas of where relations already exist, but we definitely must expand and consider new areas. The world is changing rapidly and quicker than ever. We're just coming out of a 1.5 year pandemic that at the beginning of 2020, nobody thought could happen. Really, it was out there, but nobody thought of the impact this would have. And as a result, we've got tremendous impacts in terms of consequences for global supply chains, rethinking the whole supply chain infrastructure around. We have the new topics of health resilience, and health sector being absolutely essential and having climbed up the ladder of important projects. And beyond that, we have, of course, there's the traditional energy projects, but we also need to think increasingly about economic and ecological sustainability. Climate change is also an issue that's huge on the agenda. The Gulf states, Saudi Arabia in particular, are making tremendous efforts also in terms of their diversification to more clean energy. And I think that's another area in which the two sides can definitely outline their perspectives and seek greater cooperation. There are a whole variety here of new areas that we need to think about. Both sides are looking into developing more innovative strategies, looking into more technological innovation, building up the human capacities. And I think there are tremendous prospects here that we just need to put the thinking caps on of the two sides and encourage as much cooperation between institutions, between facilities. As we mentioned already, education, training are two elements that are important. And if we do that sort of in a systematic approach, I think we can have a lot of tremendous progress for both sides. So I'll leave it at that, and thank you again. I think it's been a great exchange, and I look forward to continuing these kinds of exchanges.
Yep. Sure. Thank you, Mr. Koch. So I remind Dr. Christian Koch, Director of Research of Gulf Research Center, was holding his speech right now. We would remind all of the speakers and also the audience following us on Facebook and on Zoom and other social media platforms that afterwards, after this discussion in a few weeks, in a week, a joint paper of few research institutions between the Khaleej team Gulf Research Center, between ADASTRA, will be published on Saudi Arabia-Ukraine relations to be further transmitted to decision makers, to embassies as well. So as you may see in the chat, Dr. Christian Koch has also submitted the research about which he was talking on. Yes, so unfortunately I was informed by the office that unfortunately His Excellency Mohammed bin Sulaiman Mohammed Al Nushehr, Ambassador Extraordinary Plenipotentiary of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to Ukraine, can't join our discussion. So we understand this fact. Ambassadors have a lot to do, and the world of diplomacy may require some force majeure circumstances, but the office and Mr. Ambassador himself shows the willingness to join, that testifies the fact that both sides are interested in the exchange of ideas and are interested in the deepening of cooperation. And I hope and I think so, and I'm sure of the fact that the cooperation will be on the track of the development, and our joint paper between the Gulf Research Center and ADASTRA will be also a small contribution towards the whole reconstruction and development of the ideas and of the relations between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Ukraine. Yeah, so on this point, I would like to end our discussion. I will give the final speech to the speakers as well, and afterwards we'll end. So please, as far as I may say, Dr. Abdulaziz, please, you wanted to say something.
Well, again, I'd like to thank you and thank His Excellency the Ambassador. It is unfortunately Saudi Ambassador was not able to join us because of urgent matters. However, I'd like to thank your colleagues and my colleagues, for presenting some of the thoughts and idea, and I'm sure this is a good start, and we really hope that we both can contribute to strengthening the relation, whether it's economical or political, and bring a better understanding and give some more, policy suggestion from both sides to both, side that really can help to enhance the relation and make it stronger. So thank you very much, and look forward to for our future also collaboration. Hopefully more in physically that we are able to visit you and you are able to visit us and to continue our dialogue. Yes. Thank you very much for everybody.
Sure, 100%. Always waiting for you in Kyiv, in Ukraine. Yes, so I would like to thank all of the speakers and of the audience following us on Facebook and Zoom and other social media platforms. I would remind that we have been hosting His Excellency Ambassador of the Kingdom of Ukraine to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Mr. Vakhushev Vadim. Mr. Vadim. Yes, so we have been featuring Madam Irina Zaporizhka from our senior fellow ADASTRA from Ukraine. From the Saudi side, from the Gulf Research Center, we have been featuring 3 speakers. So Dr. Abdulaziz Zakir, Chairman of Gulf Research Center, Dr. John Sfakiankis, Program Director and Economic Research Chief Economist, and Dr. Christian Koch, Director of Research at Gulf Research Center. So yeah, I think at this point we may end our football discussion. The recording will be uploaded in YouTube very soon, and then will be released on the social media platforms and the web pages of both Gulf Research Center and ADASTRA. And I guess that we have made the first step, and the further cooperation actions to be taken will be made as well. And I hope that the cooperation as between Gulf Research Center and ADASTRA, as between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Ukraine, will also develop progressively and develop. Yes, so thanks a lot for all of you. Thank
you, and goodbye.
Yeah, bye. At this time, I will end our discussion. Have a nice day and take care of all of you in these strange COVID times. Bye.